Hello everyone, my name is Luther George. This is this is for the class Eco 3101. All right, we're gonna be talking about fundamental assumptions about individual preferences. All right, we need to build a model that can predict choices when the variables can change. Let's make it this more work this theory a little bit more. All right. Let's say that consumer preferences is an exact, a set of assumptions that focus on consumer choices that result in different alternatives, such as happiness, satisfaction, or utility. As you can see in the image right now, let's call him Eric. Eric has two choices. He either can choose canola oil or he either can buy olive oil. It's up to him. But in economics, we need to sort out how to predict what he's going to choose, all right? That's what we're going to be choosing about. But we need to clarify beforehand different things. One, for example, is consumer preferences are not dependent on both consumer income or prices. Remember, for example, Sarah might afford coffee in a Starbucks. She probably has the money, she has the income to buy it, but she'd rather make her own coffee at home. It's an option. It's a preference. All right. Another example is in on the upper corner. You see the Lean, maybe like high class restaurants, but he can afford them. So basically, the only thing that he can afford, because even though he want to eat out, is McDonald's. It's a choice. It's a preference. It's not about based on income or prices. All right. We're gonna be talking about three different ones. All right. The first one, the first preference that we want to be talking about is called completeness. Basically, completeness is when the consumer does not have an indifference between two goods. More little working this theory a little bit more is, for example, he can face apples against oranges or apples against bananas. He doesn't care, but he might rather choose one better than the other one. So, in order to predict this, we just have to put upon each other which one is the one he's gonna choose over one. All right. A better example is Eddie has two alternative choices. He can either eat hot dogs or he can either eat hamburgers. The assumption of completeness reflects the idea that Eddie should be able to compare his options. In this case, hot dogs and hamburgers. In other words, Eddie should be able to choose between he likes hot dogs or hamburgers. It's not about the price. It's not about he can afford it or not. It's about what he has on hand right now. We can use the example of chicken and steak. Eddie can have the option to eat either chicken or steak. He just have to choose one above the other one. But he both want to have the chance to choose between two of them. All right. The second basic one, it have to be called transitivity. Basically, it is based on defining a relationship between goods, such as a consumer prefer a good A or a good B, and if I prefer a good B over a good C, then the consumer prefer A to good C. So all the three options. Let's work this a little bit more, right? With a clear example. Let's see that Eddie prefers bananas, is a good A, over apples, but he also prefers apples above oranges. It means that Eddie prefer apples, that is the good A, all the way through oranges, that's the good C. So he gonna have the three options. He likes one more than the other one, but he also have the other one more than the third one. So he gonna have that gap of options. He gonna have three options. He can choose whatever it's gonna be like. And then he likes the three of them, but one rather than the other one. All right. Now that we're clear with transitivity, we want to talk about the last one. The more is better. Also, it's called a non-satiation. Basically, it doesn't matter if the person has one good or two goods. It's not going to change the amount of what he likes. It's not going to change the preference. It states that The more of a good is always better and it does not affect the consumer's ability to utilize another goods. It means, let's put this in a better frame, all right? Eddie will be happier with 6 hot dogs and 2 hamburgers than 4 hot dogs and 1 hamburger. The point is that Eddie doesn't look satisfaction is just one and other one. He looks satisfaction is more of one and okay to have another one there. Some economics they call this assumption the consumer greed. It means again, let me rephrase this. A person can like a good and likes the second good too, but he'd rather have a couple more of one good than the second good, but he needs to have both at the same time. That's what is called the consumer greed. All right. Now we're going to be talking about what is the economic importance of consumer preferences. We need to have something clear, all right? It's important to economics because of the relationship between the preference and the consumer demand curves. They are one by the other one. Remember, you are predicting. This is about walking ahead of what's going to happen. In order to have this and calculate how everything's going to go, you need to have in mind what the preference of the consumer in order to work with the demand curves. All right. It is also important to understand where the consumers are going to spend their incomes on which will help to predict consumer demand. All right. Remember, there's a curve of demand and there's a curve of supply. In order to calculate where the people is going to spend their money, it means that well the consumer demands curve is going to be, you need to understand beforehand, you need to work ahead of where the supply is going to be in order that you don't want to have a shortage. All right. Well, this I really hope that everybody understand this point. Um, it's been my pleasure for all every one person who was listening to me. Again, my name is Luther George. This is for class Microeconomics 3101. My pleasure.